Hi and hello, I am ATHEENAPANDIAN here. Welcome to the Anatomy for the Biomedical Engineers classroom once again. Today we are going to discuss about the next topic of the central nervous system, that is neurons. What is neurons, what are the types of neurons, and what is the structural anatomy of the neurons, and what is the function of each and every parts of the neuron. Everything you are going to see today. Come, let me start the class now. See, neurons, we know that neurons is a very important role in the human being, especially in the central nervous system. We can say that neuron is a structural and functional unit of the central nervous system, because all the functions can be, most probably the 90% of the functions of the brain and the spinal cord is done through this type of neurons. Okay, so we all know that that is 86 billions of neurons is present in the brain itself. Okay, that particular neurons, according to their function, we can able to classify that particular neurons into three different types. That is, one is sensory neuron, second is motor neuron, the third is interconnect neurons. Sensory neurons is nothing but, the name itself says that it will sensing the informations from the external environment. It will receive the sensory informations like touch, light, sound. All the things can be received. This particular sensory neurons, it will receive and it will send it to the information to the, that is signals to the brain or the spinal cord. Then come to the motor neuron. The information will send it to the brain and spinal cord. So the next process is, we need to collect the informations from the brain and spinal cord to respond. That function will be done by this motor. That is, the motor neuron receives the informations from the brain or spinal cord and will do the action. That is muscular, through the muscular or through the muscles or through the bones, it will do the action. Okay, so sensory neuron receiving the information and pass it to the brain or spinal cord. The motor neuron receive the informations from the brain and spinal cord to response through the muscles or the skeletal body. Then what is the interconnect neuron? Of course, the name itself shows that interconnect neurons are the neurons that will connect the neurons. Okay, all the neurons will be connected by this particular interconnected neurons. Okay, then only through this interconnected neurons only the information will be processed from one neuron to another neuron. Okay, so this is according to the function we can able to classify this particular neurons into three types. Okay, sensory neuron, motor neuron, and interconnect neurons. Then now we are going to see the structure of neurons. We know that there are 86 billions of neurons are present in a human body. So that particular, each and every neuron have some of the structure, and each and every structure have some of the parts, and each and every part do some of the function. So what are all this? Just an example of, just taken one neuron for example. Okay, so this is the structure of the neuron. Okay, this is the structure of the neuron, and what are the parts involving in it? See, this particular neuron have the compact region in the top part, that is called as the soma or cyton. Okay, remember this particular, the head portion of this particular neuron, it is a compact region. It is called as a soma or cyton. It consists of nucleus in the center. The soma consists of nucleus in the center. Of course, we know that what is the function of the nucleus and everything. Okay, then this particular compacted portion that is projected downwards and in the lateral part. The region that is projected in the lateral regions as like a branches, the small distanced branches that are called the dendrites. Then this particular compacted region it will project it out with a long distance. With a long distance, that is called as an axon. That is called as the axon. The full part is called as the axon. Okay. The region where the axon and the cyton will meet, that is called as the axon hillock. That is called as the axon hillock. The compacted region that is projected out and it will bulge over. That bulging portion or the meeting portion between the soma and this particular axon is called as the axon hillock. Okay, then in the axon we have very important part that is called as a myelin sheath. That is called as the myelin sheath. In between the each and myelin sheath, there is a small connection that is called as the node of Ranvier. That is called as the node of Ranvier. Then the dendrites, the soma and the axon. Apart from this, in the terminal region of the axon, we have the connections or we have the connection part to the other neuron that is called as the synapse. That is called as the synapse. So these are all the important parts involved in the neuron, single neuron. Then next we are going to see the functions of each and every parts of the neuron. First we know that all the parts, then functions come. Come to the soma or cyton. This particular soma, already I told you, it is a compact part. It consists of cell organelles and the nucleus. It consists of cell organelles and the nucleus. We know that what is the purpose of each and every cell organelles and what is the purpose of nucleus and everything. In the types of cells, in the structure of cells and functions of cells itself, we know that. So this particular cell, this particular cyton or soma, along with the cell organelles and the nucleus, it will maintain the growth of the each and every nerve cell. So this is the main function of this particular soma. It will maintain all the other parts of the nerve cell. Okay. The dendrites. Dendrites is the next part of the neuron. This particular soma or cyton, the small projection outward, that small projection is nothing but the dendrites. That dendrites have so many branches. The main job of the dendrites is it will connect to the other dendrites of the neuron. It will receiving the informations from the other neuron and pass it to the cyton. So this is the job of these dendrites. Okay. The next portion is axon. So this particular soma or cyton, the slendering below the long distance, that is called as that projection is called as the axon. That axon, what is the function of the axon is the receiving informations. The receiving informations, that particular receiving informations or act as the electrical impulses here. All the electrical impulses, all the electrical conductions will be maintained by this particular axon because of the presence of parts involved in it. That parts will help to protect that electrical impulses that is carried out in the axon. The parts are called the myelin sheath and the node of Ranvier. These two parts are very important to protecting the electrical signal that is transmitting on the axon. The electrical signals are very important part that will send the information to the other neuron. Then next to the axon we have the synapse part. The synapse is the meeting terminal or the axon terminal. It will meet the other neuron in the lower region. Okay, this particular synapse will connect to the other synapse of the neuron. So this is what the synapse will be interconnected. At the same time, the dendrites are also connected. But the dendrites receiving the informations and it passes to the cyton and is sent to the axon, and this particular axon terminal that is receiving the information and again it is passed to the other synapse of the neurons. So this is the function of each and every parts of the neuron. Okay, this is how the information will be receiving from the externally, and the information to the passing to the brain and spinal cord, and receiving the information from the brain and spinal cord, and take an action or take a response according to the sensory response, according to the sensory input. Okay. The next part is, according to the structure, the neurons can be classified into 4 different types. We already crossed over the important types of neurons according to the function. According to the structure, we can able to classify the neurons into 4 different types. That is, one is unipolar neuron. The second is bipolar neuron. The third is multipolar neuron. The fourth is pseudopolar neuron. What is that is? See the structure. This unipolar neuron have only one dendrites. The small cyton that is projected out, it have only one dendrites. Okay. Then come to the bipolar neuron. It have one axon and one dendron. Okay. That's bipolar neuron. Multipolar neuron, it have one axon and multi dendrites present in a cyton. The pseudopolar is nothing but it have cyton and it have only one projection. That projection will do 2 processes, that is axon process and the dendrite process. So this is the, according to the structural, we can able to classify this particular neurons. This multipolar neuron is present in our human body. Okay, the more number of, that is 99% of the multipolar neurons are present in a human body, because it will play a main vital role in the central nervous system by receiving and sending the information. So we need multipolar neuron in our human body. Okay. So that's all about today's class. We already crossed over the first portion of the central nervous system, that is brain and internal parts, functions, and the structure of neuron functions, classification, everything. In the next class, we are going to see the next portion of the central nervous system, that is spinal cord. We crossed over brain. The next class, we are going to see the structure and the parts and the anatomical nature and the function of spinal cord. Thanks a lot for your patience. Thank you.